He woke up at 4:30 every morning. He worked 6 days a week. He never took vacations. He sacrificed weekends, holidays, and decades of his life, all in the name of hard work. His hands were calloused. His back was bent. And after 30 years of grinding, he had almost nothing to show for it. A modest home. A retirement fund that wouldn't carry him 5 years. And a quiet, gnawing question he was too exhausted to fully confront. Why? His neighbor, the man who seemed to always be laughing, always be traveling, always have time, had started a small business just 8 years ago. He hadn't worked nearly as hard. He hadn't sacrificed nearly as much. And yet, by every visible measure, his neighbor was free. Financially free. Emotionally free. Time free. One afternoon, this hard-working man finally asked his neighbor the question that had been eating at him for years. "How did you do it? I've worked my whole life. I've done everything I was told. What am I missing?" His neighbor smiled, not smugly, but kindly, and handed him a worn copy of a book. On the cover was the name Bob Proctor. That book changed his life. Not because it told him to work harder, but because, for the first time in his life, someone showed him that the problem was never his effort. The problem was his programming. The problem was that no one had ever taught him the laws that actually govern wealth, the invisible principles that separate those who struggle from those who prosper. What you are about to hear is what that man learned, and what Bob Proctor spent a lifetime teaching the world. Bob Proctor didn't come from wealth. He didn't graduate from a prestigious university. He didn't have powerful connections or family money waiting for him. What he had, at the age of 26, was a mountain of debt, a dead-end job, and a fire in his gut that refused to go out. Then someone handed him a book, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and everything changed. Within a year, Bob Proctor had gone from earning $4,000 a year to earning over $175,000. Not because he worked harder, because he started thinking differently, because he began to understand that wealth is not a product of effort alone. Wealth is a product of understanding. For the next 6 decades, Bob Proctor dedicated his life to one mission: understanding why some people prosper while others struggle, and teaching those principles to anyone willing to listen. He studied the science of the mind, the laws of the universe, and the psychology of success with the focus of a man who had personally experienced both poverty and abundance. He didn't theorize. He lived it. And then he taught it. What Proctor discovered, and what continues to shock people when they first encounter it, is that the world has been teaching the wrong lesson about money. From the time we are children, we are told that if we study hard, work hard, and stay disciplined, we will be rewarded with financial success. It sounds logical. It sounds fair. And it is, for the most part, completely wrong. Hard work is important. It has its place. But hard work, by itself, does not produce wealth. If it did, the hardest working people in the world, the laborers, the farmers, the factory workers, the single mothers working 3 jobs, would be the wealthiest. And we know that is not what happens. In this video, we are going to walk through Bob Proctor's teachings on why hard work alone never leads to wealth, and what actually does. We will explore the invisible laws that govern prosperity, the mental programming that keeps most people trapped, and the shift in thinking that separates those who earn a living from those who build a life. This is not about working less. This is about understanding more. Let's begin. From the moment most of us could understand language, a story was being written inside our minds. It was written by our parents, our teachers, our religious institutions, and the culture around us. The story went like this: work hard, be responsible, follow the rules, and you will be rewarded. This story is not malicious. The people who told it to us believed it with their whole hearts. But belief in something does not make it true. Bob Proctor called this the programming problem. He explained that the human mind operates like a computer. And just like a computer, it runs on whatever software has been installed. Most of us were installed with software written by people who themselves were running on outdated, inherited code. The program said, trading time for money is the path to security. Work more hours, earn more money. That is how it works. But Proctor would ask audiences a simple question. If trading time for money is the key to wealth, why do doctors, lawyers, and engineers, who trade their time at very high rates, still feel financially stressed? Why do most of them still worry about retirement? Why are so many of them one bad year away from financial crisis? The answer reveals a fundamental flaw in the program. The lie is not that work is bad. The lie is that work is enough. Society confused two very different things: income and wealth. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you build. A person can earn a high income their entire career and never build genuine wealth. And a person can build extraordinary wealth while their income remains modest, provided they understand the principles that govern the accumulation and multiplication of money. Proctor taught that this confusion between income and wealth is the first and most dangerous trap. People spend their entire lives optimizing for income, getting promotions, chasing raises, working overtime, while never addressing the question of wealth at all. They are running on a treadmill, moving constantly but arriving nowhere new. He often pointed to the statistic that the vast majority of lottery winners return to their previous financial state within a few years of winning. This is not bad luck. This is not poor discipline. This is programming. When a person's internal financial thermostat is set to a certain temperature, any sudden change, up or down, will be corrected back to that setting. More money does not fix a broken financial mindset. It only amplifies it. The same principle works in reverse. People who have built genuine wealth, who understand the laws of money, can lose everything and rebuild it. Because the wealth was never really in the money. It was in the mind. The money was just a reflection of the thinking. Proctor pointed to himself as evidence. He had built and lost and rebuilt wealth multiple times across his life. Each time he rebuilt, he did so faster. Because the principles do not change. Only the circumstances do. The lie we were all told is comfortable. It is familiar. It gives us something to do, work harder, stay busy, keep grinding. But comfort is not the same as truth. And a comfortable lie, held long enough, becomes a life sentence. The first step to real prosperity, Proctor taught, is not a new strategy or a better investment. It is the willingness to question the story you have been telling yourself about how money works. Until you examine that story, you cannot rewrite it. And until you rewrite it, no amount of hard work will change the ending. Bob Proctor used a word that many people had never heard before they encountered his work: paradigm. He used it constantly, almost obsessively, because he believed it was the single most important concept in understanding why people succeed or fail in life. A paradigm, as Proctor defined it, is a multitude of habits, a collection of conditioned beliefs held in the subconscious mind that control virtually every decision and behavior a person makes. The paradigm is invisible. That is what makes it so powerful and so dangerous. You do not see your paradigm operating. You only see its results. You see the bank account that never grows. You see the opportunities that somehow always fall apart. You see the relationships with money that always seem to end the same way. These are not accidents. These are the outputs of a program running beneath your awareness. Proctor taught that the paradigm is formed primarily in the first 7 years of life. During this period, the critical faculty of the mind, the filter that evaluates new information and either accepts or rejects it, is largely undeveloped. This means that everything a child hears, sees, and experiences goes directly into the subconscious without filtration. The beliefs of the parents become the beliefs of the child, not through conscious agreement, but through osmosis. If a child grows up hearing, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "Rich people are greedy," "We can't afford that," or "Money is the root of all evil," those statements are not filed away as opinions. They are installed as facts, as operating principles. And for the rest of that person's life, their behavior will be shaped by those invisible instructions, unless something intervenes to change them. The paradigm determines what you believe is possible for you. It sets your upper limit. It creates your financial thermostat. And when you try to exceed that thermostat through sheer effort, by working more hours, taking on more jobs, grinding harder, the paradigm pushes back. It creates self-sabotage. It generates fear. It manufactures reasons why the opportunity isn't right, why the timing is off, why you're not ready. Proctor described paradigms as the reason why intelligent, talented, hard-working people stay stuck. It is not a lack of ability. It is a conflict between conscious desire and subconscious programming. The conscious mind wants more. The subconscious mind is terrified of it. And in that conflict, the subconscious always wins. Always, he illustrated this with the image of a thermostat in a house. If the thermostat is set to 68 degrees and you open a window in winter, The cold air will flow in and the temperature will drop. But the thermostat will immediately activate the heater to restore the room to 68 degrees. The window, the effort, the strategy, the new income does not change the setting. Only reprogramming the thermostat does. This is why so many people who experience sudden financial increases, through a raise, a bonus, an inheritance, find themselves back at their starting point within months or years. The paradigm self-corrects. It is not weakness or stupidity. It is the mind doing exactly what it was programmed to do. Changing the paradigm, Proctor taught, requires repetition and emotional engagement. The subconscious mind is not changed by logic. It is changed by impression, by the consistent, emotionally charged repetition of new ideas. This is why affirmations, visualization, and immersion in new thinking patterns are not motivational fluff. They are the actual mechanism by which paradigm shifts occur. Your paradigm is not your identity. It is your conditioning. And conditioning can be changed. But it will never be changed by working harder inside the old program. It will only be changed by doing the internal work to install a new one. Bob Proctor was passionate about laws, not legal statutes, but universal laws. He believed, as many great thinkers before him did, that the universe operates according to precise, unchanging principles. Just as gravity does not make exceptions, the laws that govern the creation of wealth do not make exceptions. Work with them and wealth flows. Work against them, and effort becomes futile. The first and most foundational law Proctor taught was the law of vibration. He explained that everything in the universe, including money, including your thoughts, including your emotions, is energy in motion. Energy vibrates at different frequencies. And like frequencies attract like frequencies. This is not metaphor. It is physics. And it means that the energy you are vibrating at determines what you attract into your life. Most people live in a frequency of lack. They think about what they do not have, worry about what they cannot afford, and speak constantly in the language of scarcity. This frequency, regardless of how hard the person works, will continue to attract experiences that match it. More struggle. More barely getting by. More evidence that life is hard and money is scarce. The law of attraction, which Proctor taught long before it became a cultural phenomenon, states simply that like attracts like. Your dominant thoughts and feelings act as a magnet. They do not attract what you want. They attract what you are. This distinction is critical. Wanting wealth from a place of scarcity attracts more scarcity. Being wealthy in consciousness, thinking, feeling, and acting as someone who is already abundant, attracts the conditions, people, and opportunities that produce wealth. The law of cause and effect states that nothing happens by accident. Every result in your life is the effect of a cause. Most people try to change their effects, their bank balance, their income, their circumstances, without changing their causes, their thoughts, their beliefs, their habitual actions. This is why nothing changes despite great effort. You cannot change an effect by attacking the effect. You must change the cause. Proctor also taught the law of growth, which states that whatever you give attention and energy to will grow. If you give your attention to problems, problems grow. If you give attention to possibilities, possibilities expand. The mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It moves toward whatever is held most consistently in consciousness. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy may sound complex, but its application is simple. Everything is always in the process of becoming something. Energy is always moving. You are always in the process of becoming either more or less. There is no standing still. This means that inaction is not neutral. Staying in the same paradigm, the same thinking patterns, the same habits, is actively choosing a direction. What Proctor emphasized above all is that these laws operate whether you believe in them or not. You do not need to believe in gravity to fall. You do not need to understand the law of vibration for it to shape your financial reality. Ignorance of the law is not protection from it. The great tragedy, Proctor observed, is that schools teach children almost nothing about these laws. They teach mathematics, history, and literature, all valuable, but they do not teach the principles by which reality is actually shaped. Children are sent into the world intellectually capable but energetically unaware. And so they work hard within a system they were never taught to understand. Wealth begins with understanding. Not with strategy, not with tactics, not with extra hours. Understanding the laws that govern prosperity is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without that foundation, every effort is like building a house on sand. Impressive looking, perhaps, but vulnerable to the first real storm. If you want to understand why hard work alone does not produce wealth, you must understand the relationship between the conscious and subconscious minds. Bob Proctor spent decades studying this relationship, drawing from the work of Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Thomas Troward, and Neville Goddard. What he concluded was both simple and staggering. Your conscious mind sets goals, but your subconscious mind determines your results. The conscious mind is the thinking mind. It is where you set intentions, make plans, and choose directions. When you decide you want to earn more, save more, or build a business, that decision is made consciously. It feels real. It feels committed. And then, for most people, nothing much changes. Because the subconscious has not received the memo. The subconscious mind is the programming mind. It contains every belief, habit, and emotional pattern accumulated since childhood. It operates automatically, without conscious awareness, controlling roughly 95% of your daily thoughts and behaviors. When your subconscious programming says, "People like me don't get rich," it will generate the exact behaviors needed to ensure that belief remains true, even without your knowledge or consent. Proctor taught that the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. This is both a limitation and a profound opportunity. It means that by repeatedly imagining, with feeling and vividness, a new financial reality, you begin to impress that reality upon the subconscious mind. You begin to create new programming, new automated behaviors that align with prosperity rather than struggle. This is the science behind visualization, and Proctor was adamant that it was science, not spirituality. When you hold a clear mental image of your desired financial outcome and pair it with strong positive emotion, you are sending a signal to the subconscious mind. Over time, that signal becomes a new instruction. The subconscious begins to move your behavior in alignment with the image it has accepted as true. The reason most people's hard work does not produce wealth is that their effort is running on top of subconscious programming that contradicts their conscious goals. They are pushing the gas and the brake simultaneously. The effort is real. The intention is sincere. But the invisible program is working against them. Proctor described this as operating in a paradigm conflict. The conscious mind wants to move forward. The subconscious mind is afraid of the unfamiliar territory that forward movement requires. And so it manufactures resistance, procrastination, distraction, self-doubt, sudden illness, unexpected crises, anything to keep the person in familiar, predictable territory. Breaking through this conflict requires what Proctor called study, repetition, and emotional engagement. You must study new ideas about money and possibility long enough and deeply enough that they begin to penetrate the subconscious. You must repeat those ideas, through affirmation, journaling, visualization, until they displace the old ones. And you must feel them, because the subconscious speaks the language of emotion, not logic. He often said that you do not need to understand electricity to use it. But you do need to flip the right switches. The subconscious mind has switches, and the tools to flip them have been known for centuries. The tragedy is that most people never learn they exist. Your financial results are a printout of your subconscious programming. Before you add another hour of work, before you take on another side project, before you blame the economy or the government or your circumstances, look inward. The source of your financial reality is not outside of you. It is inside. And that is the most empowering truth Bob Proctor ever taught. Bob Proctor had a whiteboard that he used in virtually every seminar. On that whiteboard, he drew two columns. One column was labeled linear income. The other was labeled residual income. He would look at his audience and say, "The entire education system teaches you to pursue linear income." And that, he would declare with a knowing smile, is the problem. Linear income is income that requires your direct, active participation to generate it. You show up, you work, you get paid. You stop showing up, the income stops. This is the model on which almost every job in the world is built, from the janitor to the surgeon. The hour is traded for the dollar. The moment the trading stops, so does the money. Proctor would then point out the mathematical impossibility embedded in this model. There are only 24 hours in a day. Even if a person worked every single one of them, without sleeping, without eating, without resting, their income would be capped by the number of hours available multiplied by their hourly rate. There is a hard ceiling, and no amount of hard work breaks through a hard ceiling. Residual income, by contrast, is income that continues to flow after the initial work is done. A book that earns royalties. A rental property that generates monthly income. A business system that runs without the owner's daily presence. An investment portfolio compounding over time. These are not passive in the sense of effortless. They require intelligence, strategy, and often significant initial effort. But they break the ceiling. Proctor taught the concept of leverage as the master key to wealth. Leverage means using something, systems, other people's time, other people's money, intellectual property, technology, to produce results that far exceed what any individual could produce alone. The wealthy are not working harder than the poor. They are working with leverage. And leverage is a multiplier that makes effort exponential. He pointed to the fact that the wealthiest people in history were not solo performers, they were builders of systems. Henry Ford did not manufacture cars with his own two hands. He built a system that allowed thousands of people to manufacture cars on his behalf. Andrew Carnegie did not mine steel himself. He understood leverage. If you can get 30 people each contributing 10% of their effort toward a shared goal, you can produce results no single person, working 100%, could ever match. Proctor urged people to ask a radical question: how can I get paid when I am not working? This question alone, he said, could transform a person's financial life, not because of the immediate answers it produces, but because of the shift in thinking it requires. It moves a person's mind from the employee model to the entrepreneur model, from linear thinking to leverage thinking. Multiple streams of income were not presented by Proctor as a luxury for the already wealthy. They were presented as a necessity for anyone serious about financial freedom. When your income depends on one source, one employer, one client, one skill, you are one event away from crisis. Diversification of income is not just a wealth strategy. It is a survival strategy. He also addressed the fear that most people carry around this concept. I don't have time to build another income stream, they say. And Proctor would reply, you have exactly as many hours in the day as every person who has ever built financial freedom. Time is not the issue. Priorities are. And priorities are shaped by programming. The shift from linear to leverage thinking does not happen overnight. But it begins with a single decision. The decision to stop trading hours for dollars as your only strategy. The moment you make that decision, the moment you begin exploring how your knowledge, your creativity, your resources can work for you while you sleep, you have taken the first real step toward financial freedom. Bob Proctor was fascinated by wealthy people, not to admire them, but to study them. He spent years analyzing what the genuinely wealthy did differently, not just in their actions, but in their minds. What he found was not a difference in intelligence or talent or even opportunity. What he found was a fundamental difference in how they thought about money, time, value, and possibility. The average person thinks about money in terms of what it costs. The wealthy person thinks about money in terms of what it returns. When faced with a financial decision, the average person asks, "Can I afford this?" The wealthy person asks, "What is the return on this investment?" These two questions lead to entirely different lives. One contracts possibility. The other expands it. The average person works to earn money. The wealthy person works to create value, and they understand that money is the natural byproduct of genuine value creation. When you solve a significant problem for a significant number of people, money flows. This is not luck. This is the law of compensation operating precisely as it always does. Proctor taught that average earners focus on security. They want a steady paycheck, a guaranteed retirement, a predictable income. Wealthy builders focus on growth. They are comfortable with uncertainty because they trust the principles they have learned to operate within. Security-focused thinking protects what is. Growth-focused thinking creates what could be. One looks backward. The other looks forward. The average person sees a successful person and thinks, they must have gotten lucky. The wealthy person sees a successful person and thinks, what are they doing that I can learn from? This single distinction, attributing success to luck versus principles, determines whether a person ever seriously pursues wealth for themselves. Proctor observed that wealthy people are voracious learners. They invest in knowledge, in mentorship, in their own development with the same seriousness that others invest in entertainment. They understand that their income can never consistently exceed their level of personal development. Growing the person grows the results. This is not a slogan. It is a verified pattern repeated across virtually every great financial success story in history. The wealthy are also comfortable talking about and thinking about large numbers. The average person becomes anxious when imagining large amounts of money. It feels unreal, arrogant, or dangerous. But Proctor said that you cannot receive what you are not comfortable holding in consciousness. If the thought of $1 million makes you nervous, you are not ready to receive $1 million. Comfort with abundance must precede its arrival. Wealthy people are decisive. They make decisions quickly and change them slowly. Average people make decisions slowly and change them quickly. Indecision, Proctor taught, is a form of fear. And fear is simply a signal that the paradigm is resisting new territory. Every moment spent in indecision is a moment the opportunity window is closing. Perhaps most importantly, wealthy thinkers believe they deserve prosperity. Not in an entitled way, but in the deep, grounded understanding that abundance is the natural state of the universe. Scarcity is not natural. It is manufactured by limited thinking. The universe is not withholding wealth from anyone. People are simply not aligned with the frequency at which wealth flows. Bob Proctor himself embodied every one of these contrasts. He chose a different way of thinking, deliberately, systematically, persistently, and he built a different life as a result. He did not do this because he was special. He did this because he was willing. And willingness, he would tell you, is all it ever takes. By this point, a natural question arises. If hard work alone is not enough, and the real work is internal, then what is the practical path forward? Bob Proctor never left his audiences in abstraction. He always brought the teaching back to the specific, the applicable, the actionable. This final chapter is about that path, the real steps from where most people are to where they want to be. The first step is awareness. You cannot change what you cannot see. The most important thing you can do right now is begin to observe your own thoughts about money. Notice the language you use. Notice the feelings that arise when you think about wealth. Notice the stories you tell yourself about why financial freedom is not available to you. These observations are not meant to shame you. They are meant to illuminate the programming so you can begin to change it. The second step is study. Proctor was adamant. You must saturate your mind with new ideas. Read the books, Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, as a Man Thinketh. Listen to the recordings. Watch the seminars. Attend the programs. This is not casual self-improvement reading. This is deliberate reprogramming. The goal is to replace old, limiting beliefs with new, empowering ones, and that requires sustained exposure over time. The third step is to set a goal that scares you. Not a realistic goal. Not a comfortable goal. A goal that, when you first write it down, makes your heart race and your mind protest. Proctor called this a C-type goal, a goal that is completely beyond your current paradigm's comfort zone. Why? Because only a goal that requires you to grow will force the paradigm to shift. Small goals can be achieved with current programming. Big goals require new programming. The fourth step is to work with a mentor or a community of like-minded thinkers. Paradigms are social as much as individual. The people you spend the most time with are constantly reinforcing your existing beliefs, either pushing you higher or anchoring you lower. Surround yourself with people who are thinking bigger, living freer, and operating from a prosperity mindset. Their paradigm will influence yours. This is not a suggestion. It is a law. The fifth step is to take action, but action informed by the new thinking. This is where the hard work does belong. Once the paradigm begins to shift, once the internal alignment begins to form, action becomes leveraged. The same hours produce different results because they are now directed by different principles, different beliefs, different energy. Hard work plus right thinking is an extraordinary combination. Proctor was always clear. He was not preaching laziness. He was not saying sit still and the universe will deliver. He was saying that effort without understanding is wasted. But effort married to understanding, effort aligned with universal law, fueled by paradigm-shifting belief, is unstoppable. It does not struggle. It flows. Gratitude, he taught, is one of the most powerful accelerators on this path. Gratitude shifts your vibration instantly. It moves you from a frequency of lack to a frequency of abundance. Begin each day acknowledging what you already have. Not as a denial of what you want, but as a recognition that abundance already exists in your life, And that recognition attracts more of it. Do not wait until you feel ready. The paradigm will never feel ready to expand. Readiness is a feeling that comes after the decision, not before it. Make the decision. Start the study. Write the goal. Take the first step. And then, as Proctor always said, trust the process, because the process is governed by laws that do not fail. The path from hard worker to wealthy thinker is not a path of ease. It is a path of courage, the courage to question what you were taught, to reimagine what is possible, and to do the internal work that most people will never do. But for those who do it, for those who truly internalize these principles and live by them, the results are not just financial. They are total. A different life. A different self. A different world. Bob Proctor died on February 3, 2022, at the age of 87. He spent the last days of his life doing exactly what he had spent 60 years doing, teaching, studying, and helping people break free from the invisible prisons of their own minds. He did not slow down. He did not retire. Because for Bob Proctor, this work was not a job. It was a calling. And the calling was simple. Help people understand that the life they want is not beyond their reach. It is only beyond their current thinking. The message of this video is not that effort is meaningless. It is that effort is a multiplier, and a multiplier is only as powerful as the number it is multiplying. Multiply hard work by a scarcity paradigm and you get exhaustion. Multiply the same hard work by an abundance paradigm, by universal law, by leverage and right thinking, and you get freedom. The work does not change. The thinking does. And thinking changes everything. If there is one thing Bob Proctor would want you to take from everything he taught, it is this: you are not your programming. The beliefs that were installed in you before you could even read are not your permanent reality. They are a starting point, and every human being has the capacity to rewrite their starting point. It does not matter how old you are. It does not matter how long you have been struggling. What matters is the decision made today to begin thinking differently, to begin studying the laws that govern prosperity, to begin seeing yourself as someone who deserves and will create genuine wealth. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you are telling yourself about why you cannot have it. Bob Proctor spent his life proving that story wrong. Now it is your turn.